You're recovering from yesterday's 4th of July extravaganza. And here's my professor, Mark Petrino, here to guide you through today's market. Mark, good morning.
Hey, just reading here about how they found cocaine at the White House. It's like
Hunter dropped the stash.
it's like a bad movie, man. Let's see.
It just keeps getting worse. And this guy in Philadelphia was a BLM activist, and he goes around shooting people. I mean, I was watching this thing yesterday when people were talking. It was a couple of different. I just noticed that picture. That's funny.
Yeah, New York Post, man, best newspaper there is.
He's so proud of it.
We got the map here. The West Wing is the administrative center of the American presidency and includes the Oval Office, Cabinet Room, and press briefing room. So that's got to be someone, I think, not just.
Yeah, he's got to X out of that video that popped up.
Yeah, so I guess you got to be someone of importance to get into the West Wing. I don't think anyone who's in there could just walk into the West Wing.
No.
So, yeah, pretty freaking unbelievable. I think we've come a long way since Willie Nelson smoked a joint on the roof.
Right.
Repeat the line. All right, so let's take a look and see what's going on this morning. Looks like we're having a little bit of a pullback, but nothing really dramatic. All right, let's just go check the Wall Street Journal and see what the headlines are. Well, this looks like an interesting article. Market ignore the looming debt peril. Let's start with that. With rates rising, the economy will be held back by the need to shore up highly indebted companies. Yes. All right, let me see here. See if there's something. Corporate bonds, CCC rated, AA rated. There's an ETF that is HYG is the most popular one, but there's GNK too, which is junk bond. Now, I remember when junk bonds were actually called junk bonds. Now they're and then somewhere along the line too, they went from debit to credit. Like people used to say, I'm a bond trader. Now they say I'm a credit trader. So anyway, if interest rates go lower, which they're probably not, you got to keep in mind when we're talking about this deflation, it's not really deflation. Prices are not coming down. They're just going up at a less of a rapid rate or at a slower pace. I mean, food is going to the food store is getting kind of like out of control, man.
Well, and there's shrinkflation too. The amount of food you get is less for more money.
Yeah, and then even at the local liquor store here, the guy was telling me that there's less ice in the bags now. The bags still cost the same, but it's like, I don't know what it was before, how they measure it in gallons or whatever, but yeah, so you're getting less ice. So there's even less shrinkflation in the ice world.
Yeah, used to be 8 and 20-pound bags.
Yeah, well, these are. I mean, I don't know how much they weigh, even though I should, because I've handled them like a million times in my life. But yeah, pretty crazy, man. All right, so anyway, so this is our junk bond, J&K. It hasn't really done much over the last, if you look, like this is a year ago, and we're pretty much right exactly where we were a year ago. All right, so let's go look at the S&P 500. That's where we like to start. Hey, Savage, what's up? All right, so here is SPY. Now, not surprisingly, this is why we always talk about what price levels are important, right? Look at where we stalled out. So we had this gap higher on, I guess that was Thursday morning, and then Friday. But look, we stopped right at its exact level here, 443. And this morning we're trading down about $2 or $2.20. So why do we run into resistance at former peaks? And the answer is it has to do with psychology.
Yep.
There's people who bought up here right around 443 who, I mean, notice this like really big move, so people were just like it's almost like a panic buying right here.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, that's the most that this was up, going all the way even back down to here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are people that sit on the sidelines and they wait for the price to get lower and so forth, so they can get in at a better price. Then they're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally they decide to get in and they just buy it at whatever price. So there tends to be really aggressive buying at the beginning of a trend, and that's what we call the smart money. And then at the end of a trend, there tends to be aggressive buying. So this is what we call the dumb money. Anyway, there's people who bought up here who regret their decision to do so once the price went lower. So a lot of them are telling themselves, man, I made a mistake. I got to get out of this. But I'm going to wait to see if it comes back a little bit so I can get out at break even. So if you have enough remorseful buyers from here placing sell orders here, the level turns into resistance. And that's exactly what happened. So when you're trading, if you want to get an idea of where to have your target prices, well, let the market tell you. If we start coming in here, and I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll just watch. I mean, we're down a little bit today, but it's only one day. Anyway, if we get back down to here, there might be support there again. Now, this is the 431 level. Someone might tell themselves, you know what? I think the market's going to go higher. I'm going to buy SPY if it gets to 430. Well, just say it gets down to the support of 431, and then it starts rallying again. And you were right that the market was going to go up. But because you just picked a random number out of the air to buy at 430, you might have missed out. So we can see on this chart here, very obvious that some of these price levels have more importance than the others. Now, why did we bounce off of 431? Well, the reason why is because it was a resistance level. Now, this is because of seller's remorse. Seller's remorse can turn a peak or resistance into a floor or support.
Mm-hmm.
Got people who sold here who regret doing so when the price goes higher, and they tell themselves they're going to buy their shares back if they can get them at the same price they sold them at. So if you have enough remorseful sellers placing buy orders, the level that was resistance becomes support. So this is the same situation here. If we were going lower and you thought, where should I buy this? And you look back, oh, we're getting close to a level that was a former peak. That means there's a good chance there's going to be support. And in that situation, you'd let the market tell you what to do, and you wouldn't miss it. All right, now the next sector we check out is the technology sector. And we can see our same principles here.
Yeah.
Right. What was resistance there became support. What was resistance here became resistance again. So this is why a lot of times we run into resistance at former peaks, right? You got to look at this stuff through the context of what does it tell us about supply and demand? So there are people who bought back here who told themselves, if the price ever gets back to my level, I'm going to try to get out at break even. So if you have enough of these remorseful buyers placing sell orders over here, the level that was resistance becomes resistance again. Wait, did I say that right? If you have enough remorseful buyers placing sell orders over here, then the level that was resistance can become resistance again. Yeah. And now we see down here another example of buyer's remorse. I know this is going into the past, but buyer's remorse can turn support into resistance. People buy and then the price goes lower. And then when we go higher, a lot of the people who bought say, man, I got to get out of this. Mr. Steven, I got to get out of this, but I'm only going to do so if I get out of break even. So there's some weird stuff going on around here, man. I played golf it was my brother's wedding like 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't find any golf gloves, right? So I had to buy a couple at the course. Well, actually just one. Now I go into our living room, and there's one of my golf gloves on the dining room table. Then I found another one on our dresser in our bedroom, and I found another one on the floor. So now all of a sudden I have 5 golf clubs, and I couldn't find them 3 weeks ago. So I don't know if one of my kids is playing a trick on me, but
maybe call a priest.
It's pretty bizarre.
That is pretty bizarre.
I have no golf clubs, so now I got 5. I suppose the most logical explanation is Clifford probably gets them because he likes anything that has your scent on it. Like he'll always try to grab my hat. All right. So anyway, now let's go over to our second biggest sector here, and this is our healthcare sector. And this looks pretty neutral here. Actually, let's go. Let me just go back to XLK and just point out the levels to watch here. All right, so on the bottom side here, we got 167, and on the top side, we got 177. So that's where our recent resistance and support was. So I don't know, just keep an eye on this. If you think we're going to bounce, I would say buy down, plan on buying down around here. And if we get up to around here and you think we're going lower, that would be a good place to sell. Instead of just randomly guessing, we can let the market tell us what to do. And that helps us not miss out on orders. It helps us make money. All right, so now healthcare. I would say this is kind of forming a range, and don't let this scale fool you. This is a much narrower range than it might appear. This is let's see, probably about a $3 range here. So I am going to put my rectangle in here, and this is a trading range. So basically, when we get to the top of the range, the supply overcomes demand. And when we get to the bottom of the range, demand overcomes supply. And a lot of times we bounce off of support. And that's because there are people who want to buy this and they're watching it go lower and lower and lower. Look at where these low trades are 3 days in a row, right at this bottom level.
There's a lot of money made in those little, we're in those little consolidation ranges too.
Yeah, I mean, looks like it would be a good one to trade. So when the market's coming lower, there's investors who are watching this saying, I want to buy this. So I got to see what's going to happen. Then all of a sudden they notice it's not going lower anymore. So they start jumping in and they get afraid that they're going to miss out. So they jump in ahead of each other. In other words, someone might be willing to pay 130, but if someone else comes along and says, hey, I'd be willing to pay 130 and 20 cents. Well, that's who the buyers or that's who the sellers are going to go to. So you get these bounces off of support. It has nothing to do with the news or whatever they're attributing it to on the news 90% of the time. It's a psychological move. So let's look how accurate this is here. So the low trade here, 129.98. The low trade here, 130.04. So that's 6 cents difference. The low trade here, 130.95. Then the opening trade here is 130.23, and the low is 130.01. So if you didn't understand how we're looking at psychology here, there's really no way you could ever explain this. Like what happened on Friday that made the value of the healthcare industry shrink by 82 basis points, right? And the answer is nothing. It was just investor perceptions. That's what drives stocks most of the time. A lot of people that are newer to this. Yeah, I got to put my putter. I haven't really been practicing golf at all. But anyway, what was I going to say here? Yeah, so a lot of people that start trading, they listen to the media or they go online and they get in these chat rooms and they start thinking that for every single little move, there's got to be some kind of, some dramatic thing going on somewhere. And that's just not true most of the time. When things bounce, it's because we got buyers who are anxious. When things sell off or resistance, we got sellers who are anxious. So this is the exact opposite. You got investors who are watching this get higher and they want to sell. Then they notice the price isn't going higher anymore. So they assume there's other sellers coming into the market. So they start to undercut each other. And that forces us into a downtrend. Now, the next biggest sector is financials. And I like to say that different things drive the market at different times. Different things are in the driver's seat at different times. And I think right now, really what's kind of the most important thing to watch is this right here is our financial sector. Now, this level here is 33.50. So, I mean, we're for all intents and purposes, we're there. But you know what? I think I'm going to boost that up now to there. So, actually, I'm going to leave it back down here, 33.50. And again, the scale here is a little deceptive. It's not, this is only 1 point in here. Anyway, now we have to see, does this hold? Will support become resistance? Now, does this resistance convert back into support? And if it does, that could set the stage for a new uptrend. And what looks pretty nice about this is, you notice how we had this fast move down here. A lot of times in markets, when something makes a rapid move one way, like here, and it reverses, it goes back to those price levels, it makes a rapid move going the other way. And that's because when a market moves through these price levels really fast, or when it doesn't trade at them, when it's a gap, in other words, we close one day and then we open the next day at a lower price, so there's no trading in between those two price levels, you're just not going to have a lot of investors who have time to buy who want to sell to get out at break even. So you'll notice that what was support becomes resistance. Well, that's because we got our remorseful buyers trying to get out at break even. When you get these rapid moves, you just don't have a lot of time. I mean, you get some buyers, but it's not as much as it would be if it was in a trading range.
Right.
So we make a fast move lower, and then we could potentially make a fast move higher, because if the buyers start coming into this, there's just not going to be a lot of sellers around. So they're going to have to pay or be willing to pay a premium. And that forces us into an uptrend. And we can see here a very clear support. All right, next up, let's look at consumer discretionary sector. Now, this looks like it's pretty overbought.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suspect that this could come in a little bit. Overbought means that we're trading above what would be its usual or typical range. And this has a tendency to draw sellers into the market. This down here is the RSI indicator, which is a thing that measures momentum. Momentum is how far something has moved over a given time period. And in this case, if it's gotten aggressively purchased and is up above its range, then we call it overbought. So sellers are going to be expecting a reversion. And so that'll draw some into the market. A big part of Wall Street trading strategies are based on the concept of reversion to the mean. Now here is our industrial sector, and this thing has really been on fire. People don't really watch these because, they're not as interesting as AI and all this other garbage. But I mean, look at the way this is ripped higher.
That's a $6.50 range. That's crazy.
Yeah. So here's your classic breakaway gap.
Mm-hmm.
We're aggressive buying at the beginning of a trend. And so this looks like this is trading right around resistance, but it's a little bit overbought as well. So it's not, I guess it's kind of not surprising that we're coming in a little bit this morning. And it's not because of let's see if they're attributing it to something. I'll go over to CNBC, which I really hate the channel, but the website's okay. Stock futures fall as investors await Fed meeting minutes. Yeah, that should be pretty interesting. So that comes out. Let me just make sure.
2:00.
Yeah.
Is when the minutes come out, and then 2:30 he comes out and then completely stomps on the fucking economy.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. Wow. Earth's highest temperature ever recorded. That's a lot. Monday, July 3rd was the hottest day ever recorded on planet Earth. Wow. All right. Well, that's not good. I guess you got to get your sunglasses out.
You get in the pool.
Yeah. So this is, we gapped up here, aggressive buying at the end of this. Maybe this is the aggressive buying at the end of the trend. Anyway, as you can see, we have clear resistance. We have clear support. So you don't need to be a market guru to see that. And we got our examples of we get a fast move lower and we gap lower, and then we rip higher right back through these levels. This is why they say gaps refill. And this is what they're referring to. When we gap, it means there are price levels that the security didn't trade at. And because it didn't trade there, no one was able to buy there. So you're not going to have these remorseful buyers trying to get out when we start getting higher. So that's why we rip through these levels really quickly. You can see it here. Not too many people talk about this concept. I've never, well, not that it's a concept. I mean, it's real, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about, like how we have this whole fast move down, fast move up. And a lot of technicians, they might say, oh, this is a gaps refill, but they don't really understand why, because they don't understand the psychology that's going on here. That's really what we're looking at, is just a map or just a graphical illustration or graphical image of the mass psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you explain this? From a fundamental point of view, you can't. How does this sector have the exact same valuation on Tuesday, December 13th, as it did on Monday, June 26th? Exact same valuation, and here and here. And then from here and here, what happened to make us lose that much value? What happened to make us gain this much value? I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollars here. And it all comes down to this whole thing about your psychology. Anxious buyers popping up off the support, anxious sellers knocking things down off of the resistance. All right, let's see what else we can look at here. Consumer staples. They've been kind of, oh, look at that. That's a big move. Now, this is kind of interesting. A lot of times money flows into this sector before the rest of the market goes lower. It's what we call our classic flight to safety. This has our companies that people need, or that sell product people need, like, I don't know, medicine, food. Ironically enough, Coke and Pepsi are in this sector, and I don't know why. I mean, if the world's coming to an end, I don't think people are going to be looking to get Cokes, right? Unless it's Hunter Biden. That's me, man. I shouldn't make fun of him. I'm telling you, man, that's like some kind of subliminal or subconscious thing where he wants to bring his dad down.
Yeah.
I mean, how could he leave a bag of blow right there in the White House?
Well, if it was him, I mean, hell, it could have been Jen Psaki showed up just to say hi and dropped it.
Does she do Coke?
I don't know.
She lives she's from where I live here in Stanford.
Is she?
Yeah.
She was circle back Jen Psaki, boy. I tell you, she could lie with the best of them. And this new girl doesn't even hold a candle to her. She can't handle herself as well as Jen Psaki did.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to know what she's doing. Like they're so isolated. It's so isolated that they don't hear any, like there was a famous incident is there's a reporter for the New York Times that back after Richard Nixon won the election said, I didn't know a single person who voted for Richard Nixon. And it just shows how isolated they are.
Yep.
It's like they don't hear the other side. So when someone asks them a question that's not a total layup, they kind of don't know what to do. All right. I just want to point out this principle: support becomes resistance, support becomes resistance, and then resistance becomes support. So when we got down here, this is not a coincidence that this is where the trend turned. It's got to a support level. People start jumping ahead of each other, and that forces the price higher. All right, now we can look at, let's take a look at energy. So let's take a look at oil first. For those of you who do not trade futures, we always look at ETFs, exchange traded funds that track these things. All right, so oil looks like it's pretty much dead in the center here of its range.
Saudi and Russia cut production again.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, prices around here are cheap, man. The cheapest I've seen in a while. It's right around $3.
Yeah, they're about $3.50, $3.60 here for the regular. Then we got one car. We got to put the high-end gas in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even drive it. It's my daughter's toy. All right, so that's oil. And we like to look at natural gas, too. Yeah, natural gas is kind of, I mean, I guess on a percentage basis, it's moved pretty well or pretty, up higher. But it's kind of been in multiple ranges here. And notice, again, we got resistance here, and then it became support. So the $260 level, I'd look for support. And if it does bounce, and you don't trade futures, you can buy the UNG ETF. UNG, and this go to funds, and this tracks natural gas. It's not not perfectly, and that's because this is only trades from 9:30 to 4, whereas natural gas trades around the clock. Yeah. So the gaps here aren't because of aggressive buying and selling. The gaps here are just because of a timing thing. So just be aware of that. You're going to see that on a lot of commodity ETFs because the commodities never stop trading. They trade 24 hours a day pretty much. And the ETFs only trade when the market's open. So sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect. Okay, so I like this energy ETF. Not that I like it. I'm not saying buy it, but I just think this is a really good example of this whole concept of our price levels that are important. And I don't know why, but for some reason, this ETF happens to like, for lack of a better term, likes this 87.50 level. Notice it was resistance. It likes this 82.20 level. It was resistance, and then it became support. Then it traded through it. Sometimes we can trade through things, and it doesn't negate them. Sometimes it does. I mean, a level that's important doesn't stay important forever. But there's still the same concept going on over here. There were people who bought back here who maybe they missed this move higher, and now they want to sell. So for whatever reason, it likes that level. It likes the $77 level. So this is our energy sector. So I would suspect this is going to hit some resistance and come down, especially because it looks like oil isn't really going to do much. If oil rallies, this will break this resistance and go higher.
Yeah.
I mean, these energy companies, it's important to understand that most of their assets are whatever the commodity is that they're involved in. So if the price goes up, the company becomes more valuable.
Did you see that graphic I sent you this weekend on the amount of oil versus the oil market versus the rest of the commodities markets?
No, I didn't actually.
Mario Gabelli had posted it, and it was interesting. It's like
you sent it to my stock market jobber email.
No, I tweeted it to you. I retweeted it from him to you. But it was interesting, man. The oil market is so much larger than everything, and oil is in everything. So when they sit there and say that they want to go on this war against oil, really it's a war against everything, every product we buy, every product we use, everything we do. So there's really no way to get rid of petroleum products. And unless you have something else that comes along, but it's going to take forever to find that. And for us to just get rid of all petroleum products or to cease, using gasoline and oil for the things that we need it for, which, I mean, my God, it lubricates everything. So, I mean, and I don't know, I'm really kind of just perplexed at why we've gone to this green production when we don't have the infrastructure in place, and we've squashed this oil production as hard as we can.
Because our country's being run by idiots.
I don't know that it's idiots, Mark. I think they're trying to shrink our economy and get us used to living in smaller houses, eating worse food, not being free, under control. You can be locked down at any moment. I honestly believe all of that's coming soon, and it's a shame because they're going to have to take it from my dead ass. They're going to have to fight me. They're going to have to fight me.
Hey, man, we don't want to get shut down here. Well, we're just going to.
No, but I'm just saying they're going to have to fight me for it because I would.
Well, you just got people that are. I mean, like, look at Biden. He literally said he was going to put oil executives in jail. I mean, he literally said that.
Yeah.
Then he comes in and talks about the evil oil companies. He's going to shut them down. Then he asks them to drill more oil. Would you start a project if you thought that in a year the government could just shut you down? Like, say you want to buy a liquor store, but in a year there's a chance that the town goes dry and they close the liquor store down.
Right.
Like, you're not going to buy the liquor store,
right? And
so why would these people, pump more oil when they're afraid of literally? I mean, I know it was probably just hyperbole, but Biden said, I'm going to put the oil executives in jail, and I mean that. That's exactly what he said. And then he comes into office, oil's $32 a barrel, then oil goes to 100, and that allows Russia to be able to finance the war in Ukraine. So it's not that the war caused inflation, it's that inflation caused the war.
That's right.
Most people have that backwards. There's also huge famines going on that no one talks about. Huge famine in Afghanistan, huge famines in Northern Africa, and this is all based on energy policy.
Well, that's why the news is just lying to us. If they won't cover any of the other things in the world, I mean, listen, every once in a while something's got to break through. But when you watch all the major news networks, they all have the same talking points. It's crazy, man. It's like you're being spoon-fed propaganda, and you don't have an option to disseminate the truth in any way yourself.
Do you remember when that church in France there burned down?
Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame. Yeah. I remember that day. I got home, and it's like all the channels that have news, that's like on there. Then I just going through the surfing, and I get to CNN, and they got literally a panel of 9 people, and every single person has the same opinion. They all hate Donald Trump, so they all say the same thing. And down in the little right-hand corner, there's like a little thing, and it's like Notre Dame burns, and it's got a little, it's a little superimposed. I mean, they get these people around the table that just, they all have the same opinion. There's like no point counterpoint. They just all agree with each other. And if you think about it, the brains of the Democratic Party, or 2 of their leading thinkers, are Whoopi Goldberg and Joyce Behar. Right? Whoopi Goldberg said World War II had nothing to do with race. Well, it's like, have you ever heard of the Aryan race? That's what Hitler was trying to establish. That's all about. It says race right in the name. It's like it was obviously about race.
Well, isn't Joy Behar Jewish?
I have no idea.
But you would think, coming from New York and living, listen, every one of these people went to school, and every one of these people knows about World War II and the destruction and death that Hitler put on people. And for them to stand up there and just deny it and say, "Oh, this doesn't happen," I don't even understand how that's a feasible thought. And that other people will line up behind them to spill that and to talk that and to listen to that blows my mind. I don't know.
Well, you know what? This goes to our psychology and our that we talk about in our psychology class, the herd mentality. People hear something and they're not critical thinkers. They just accept it. Like I always say, like when you're driving and you get to the toll booth and all the cars are lined up behind one toll, but then you look around and there's like a green light and there's no one going through that lane. Those people they just jump on the line because it's that herd mentality.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you could say stuff that's so dumb and still have a job.
Exactly. My God, if I said something like that, and I own the place, if I said something like that, somebody would say, "Look, it's time for you to retire. You need to go sit down somewhere, smoke a cigar, just stay away. Don't talk to people anymore because you're completely ate up." And that's, they retire people like that lie.
And the whole Japan invading China had to do with race as well. They thought the Chinese were an inferior race.
Yep.
I mean, it says it right in the name of their stuff. So for her to say the World War II wasn't about racism, it's like, damn, man, like watch the History Channel or get a book.
Read a book. Maybe talk to some of your neighbors that are a little older than 45 or a little older than 30. Talk to people that have actually been through it. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in school, man, we'd have veterans that would come up and they would show us, they would come in on show and tell day and they would show you we had this one guy that I swear to God, he must have killed 1,000 Nazis. He came in with a trunk. He came in with a huge trunk of stuff, and he would do it every year. And he'd come in with different stuff. And it's all stuff from the German military, from where they were fighting in World War II. And it was just amazing for a little kid like me to see stuff like that, because I've always been a patriot and I believe in the country.
Have you seen that movie Fury about the tank?
Yeah, man. Are you kidding me? That's the best movie ever made and the best job you'll ever have.
So, dude, when they're in real combat, when they're shooting at each other like that, do you really see that many tracers?
Yeah, there's a tracer every third round.
Really?
Yeah, so the infantry doesn't get smoked.
Huh.
I never really kind of.
So they did a good job then with that movie.
Yeah, that movie was incredibly good. The only thing that was a little off-putting was the damn, the intersection. They didn't really have enough weaponry on that tank to be able to handle what they handled in that intersection. That was the made-for-TV part. But the rest of it was really good.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, anyway, let's go back to the markets here. Here's a real estate ETF. And we can see, once again, clear resistance. And then there might be some trades to be had in this utility sector. Now, the utility sector is so small, it doesn't really affect the rest of them. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we've been watching this, and sure enough, got to support and then blasted off. So this is the $64, or $63.85 to get really precise. Actually, that's not true. Let me see. We should never get this precise, but I'm just doing it for the hell of it. So let's say 64.20. So got down there and we blasted off. Now this would have been this is a good way to find trades. When this was coming in, right? You could look in the past here, and see, oh, this is a support level. There's a chance there's support there again. And when we get to support, remember, there's investors who want to buy and they're watching it. All of a sudden, they notice the price isn't going down anymore. So they jump in and they get in front of each other, and this forces the uptrend. So what we can do is, this is what we're looking at here is an ETF. It's a spider ETF that's designed to track this sector. And we could go to the fact sheet of the ETF. Every ETF has a fact sheet, and then we could see which companies are in it. If I could figure out how to type here. All right, so we can go to the fact sheet and we can go to holdings. And then the idea is to look through these companies here for things that look like they might bounce more than other stocks. In other words, when we're looking at XLU, we're looking at the aggregate of everything that's going on in the sector. So by definition, there's going to be stocks that bounce more and there's going to be stocks that bounce less. So let's just, I don't know, I'm just going to pick a random one. Southern Company. SO. Stock. It's a Southern Company. Now this, yeah, so this rallied. I guess on a percentage basis, this is probably more. Let me see what the percentage is here. All right, so this was up 2.2%. And let's see how much XLU is up. And what's kind of good is when you get into these off the beaten path sectors here, it's, not, in other words, it's not technology. So look at that. So this is up 2.6% or 2.7%.
Yeah.
I mean, you could trade this in and of itself, but when you go away from the really popular stocks and you're an options trader, you're gonna be paying less of a premium. I mean, part of a premium is how popular an option is. So everyone's trading Tesla options. Probably not too many people are out there trading American Electric Power options. And now look at the move this thing made. And now this is probably at a top here. Let's see how much this has moved. So this has moved 5.2%. So for 3 days, that's a monstrous move. And it all comes down to, well, we got to support here, and we got to support here, and then we got to support again, right? No way you could explain this if you don't understand the psychology that drives these things here. So, I mean, within a matter of a point is where it got to. So now, not surprisingly, there's a little bit of profit taking going on. All right, so that's, I think, all the sectors. The only thing we didn't look at is basic materials. And this is another sector that's so small, it doesn't really influence the rest of the market, but it's a good place to find trading ideas, just like we just saw in the utility sector. All right. Now, what's kind of interesting here is this $81 level goes all the way back to 2 years ago. See, it's been support and resistance. This is what we call market memory. So it looks like there could be a little bit more upside here, because I don't see any resistance until probably up around here. And this is, now remember, you got to consider the scale here, but if you're an options trader, this is a pretty big move. And we could do the same thing. We could look within this sector at the fact sheet and look at the companies that are in it. And then we could go through these and potentially look for potential ideas. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's say Dow Inc. So again, we're looking for a sector that's moving higher. And we look within the sector for names that look like they're the most appealing or convincing, I guess would be the right word. And this looks like it's maybe stuck under a little bit of resistance. So let's Corteva. That's not one we usually look at. It's all about letting the market tell you what to do. A lot of people, they come in with these preconceived notions and, I'm going to trade this, I'm going to trade that. The best traders kind of show up agnostically. They don't really have a set opinion.
You know, since I started doing that, since I started waiting for the chart to set up and tell me what it's going to do before I go into it, I've made so much more money. And you're right. It is about your balance going up, not about your being right or wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't get second guess yourself.
No.
Like I think a good way to trade is to trade a reversal, right? That's pretty much what everyone wants to do. But the thing is, you're never going to catch the exact bottom or the top. So you actually wait for it to start reversing and then you jump in. So you might give up a couple points, but the odds are going to be much more in your favor. But what you mean by saying it's not about being right, that means it's not about catching the exact bottom or the exact top.
Right.
The only thing that matters is if your account value is growing. And if you can grow your account, even something that doesn't sound like much, like 1 or 2% a day, over the long term, that's
a lot of money.
You know, that's huge. Yeah. I mean, that's like phenomenal. Let's see, Ecolab. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, people have unrealistic expectations. I mean, you know, Warren Buffett's the greatest investor ever, according to a lot of people. And what's his average return annually? 20 or 25%. So it's not like earth shattering. I think if you're a retail trader, I think you could get more, you know, I think you can get better returns than that.
Right.
Because you're not trading billions and billions of dollars like he is. So he's got to worry about liquidity and so forth. Well, like a typical retail trader really doesn't need to. All right, let me just see if we can find. I'm just going to take a look at one more here. Air products. Actually, how about Sherwin-Williams? I got to pay my back deck, so I might be going to Sherwin-Williams pretty soon.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, these guys come and you get these quotes and, you know, it's just like, you got to be kidding me, man. You know, like, because it's like they call it like the backcountry tax, right, around here. You know, like, not that we live in like a feudal manor or anything like that, but north of the Merritt Parkway, it's like they're just going to throw on an extra 20% before they even get there because there's a lot of wealthy people.
That is brutally wrong.
Yeah, and I know they do it because I know because people have told me they do. But I always pay in cash, so I always get the cash discount. Hey, you know, I know
you a shrewd dude, Mark. I love
a lot of contractors in my family. I know how to handle.
No, you a shrewd dude. I like it.
Yeah. All right, so let's just go through the news and see what's going on here. I don't know if we're going to get too much. Well, actually, we'll get the Fed minutes, but I would imagine a lot of people are still away. It's kind of weird having 4th of July on a school night. You know what I mean? Because if the next day was off, it would have been a lot more rowdy.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much going on around here. Usually, these guys down the road here usually have a lot of fireworks. They go down and you can't really buy really good stuff here in Connecticut, so they go out to Pennsylvania. They come back with like vans full of stuff.
Finally, the judge steps in and stops the Biden administration from making social media do what it does.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, you could really argue that Facebook and Google like controlled the election.
Absolutely. Listen, if Zuckerberg hadn't dumped $400 million into that campaign and stuck out those boxes, I don't understand how a private corporation can put out a vote collection box and that be something that's legally done. I don't understand how all these other people can inject themselves into our elections instead of us having one simple way that the elections are done. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Well, and now we're paying the price, right?
Yeah.
We got all this inflation. We got a war going on, and you know what's going to happen over there. I mean, you know, talk about incompetence. They told us that war was going to be over in a week, and here we are, 15 months later. It's like, what are they looking at that they can be so wrong?
They're not looking at anything. They're looking at how much we can profit. So that's why we've started sending the jets in now, because those are $1 billion items, not $1 million items. This is all about the military industrial complex, Mark. And it has been since Vietnam. I mean, I don't think we've legitimately gone to war to win one since Korea. And we didn't even win Korea. We made an armistice, and it's been in fact since 1954. So, I mean, You know, we honestly we may have gone to these wars with the initial intention of doing good, but when the politicians get involved and they start stacking them dollars and putting it in their pockets, there's no justice that's done anymore, and there's no justice in war anyway. But it's just it becomes this unwinnable, kind of bogged down political fight that is really irrelevant to the soldier on the ground and the people getting killed every day.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it really is. We've just got these people that I don't know. I mean, this whole cabinet just seems so.
Scroll up to that last picture of Hunter. He looks high as shit right there. Not there, the next one. Yeah. The one where he's looking down like, yeah. Yeah, right here. Well, maybe not. I thought his mouth was open a little bit more, but I mean, listen, he's got enough pictures of him smoking crack and with hookers and all the other stuff that in a normal and the real, not bizarro American world, this guy wouldn't even be in the White House. And by God, integrity and honesty is what used to be considered a part of a tenet of American society, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's it's just mind-boggling to me, but I guess it's really not surprising. It's kind of funny because Biden is everything that all the Trump derangement people thought Trump was.
Listen, he just peeled back the onion so that the deep state. Listen, it's not even the people that are elected that are in charge, Mark. It's the faceless bureaucrat that sits behind the third desk in the fourth row in the Social Security Administration office. That's the son of a bitch making all the calls. You don't know that person. You don't elect that person, but that person's got the longest run in that department. Then you got all these other alphabet agencies that have the same exact principles set up. So as the government expands and these departments expand, you've got no way of controlling it. And it goes so fast and grows so fast that it's just, I don't know. This last 20 years has been really a disgusting thing that America has done to the world and to its people.
Yeah, sure does not look good here. I should go. Mayorkas.
This guy's trash.
That guy Blinken is the guy who organized the whole, Russian disinformation lie. No, because they'll never get it.
Did you hear the whistleblower that was with Vivek Ramaswamy? I can't remember the guy's name, but he was an FBI agent. He was in the same exact task force as the people that they're targeting the school board parents. And so he got the memo, and there was like 13 different directors that were above him that got the memo before he did. And the memo was talking about how Merrick Garland wanted to take and change the way that we discussed parents and turn them into like a different acronym so that you could still go after the parent, but not say it's the parent the day after he sat up in front of Congress and told them that blah, 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 blah. We don't do that. We do not target parents at school board meetings. The day after they put out this memo that wanted them to look for, like, they were called like perpetrators of educational principles or something like that, people that could be, another acronym so that you could throw those parents into that group and then you could watch them without being caught. It's freaking disgusting, man.
Well, they're all like kind of ideologues, or they're idealists. They just don't really understand how things kind of work in the real world. It's like
never earned a dollar.
It's like look at Black Lives Matter. It's like they want to break up one of their platforms. Well, now we know that the whole thing was just a big scam.
Right.
And the partners who are communists are buying $1 million houses, and I don't know if they've ever even filed taxes.
Right.
But anyway, 95% of African Americans who are in jail come from broken homes, and one of their platforms is we don't need to have a nuclear family anymore. And it's like, I mean, for better or for worse, kids who grow up with a positive male and a positive female role model end up, in most cases, having an easier life.
Absolutely. Well, they have a more grounded perspective, and they have a perspective from both sides of, a mom and a dad make a big difference because, you don't always get what you need from mom, but you can always go to dad and he may tell you something that's a little bit more insightful. or your mom may tell you something that's a little bit more insightful. And when you have a nuclear family in a home, that makes a big difference. You're exactly right. But they don't want us to have that, Mark. They want us to be completely reliant on the government.
Yeah, it's well, who knows, man? Eventually it's going to get to the point where this stuff with Hunter Biden and Biden is so, so obvious that maybe some Democrat will be like, all right, I got to do the right thing here. It could all turn on him.
No,
don't forget the whole Watergate thing that took years to play out.
Yeah, but you know something? When it's in your face and it's that evident, I don't know why you would need to wait all this time. I don't know why you can't just bring them in and question them and strap them to a lie detector machine. And when they start lying, you haul them off. I don't understand this how these upper echelon people that are just the same as me and you when they're born, but they go to work for the government and all of a sudden they're untouchable. And that's horseshit. I'm a business owner. I pay my taxes every time. I never owe. I always pay extra. And so I've got more right than these people that spend my tax dollars as far as I'm concerned. But we're all equal. So why is that even a play? Why are they able to do that? Why is there a political class that gets away with laws that the rest of us don't? It's just ridiculous. And there has to be some sort of fix to this. Or we just need to say, look, we're splitting up into 6 different countries and piss on the rest of you. It's that simple.
Well, I guess we'll hear more about this. All right, I'm going to get going, but I'll see you at 11.
Sorry on my rant today, folks. Y'all have a wonderful day. Good luck in the market.